Okay, good afternoon to you all. Welcome our viewers to our FIAE one-on-one session, whereby we discuss a number of crucial matters that affect the world at large, but most especially our continent, Africa. Today is the 2nd of March, 2025, and we shall be discussing the unraveling crisis in Congo, its impact on Africa's stability and development. And joining me to discuss those are two elite gentlemen, Mr. Ogwal Samuel, and Mr. Patrick Wanamomo. Introducing our first guest, Mr. Patrick Wanamomo is a trained advocate of the High Court of Rwanda and Kenya. Further to the above, he is a member of the East African Law Society. He holds a postgraduate diploma from the Institute of Legal Practice and Development in Rwanda. He holds a bachelor in Uganda. He former assistant lecturer and assistant food coordinator at the School of Law of Kampala International University, still in Uganda. He is a former legal officer at Owino and Company Advocates that's in Nairobi, Kenya. He is currently a regional coordinator for Rwanda, Tanzania, and Kenya for FIDA's Initiative for Academic Excellency, to the head of leadership. He is a lecturer at the East African University in Kenya. And finally, he's a legal officer and PA to the chairman of Ghana Groups of Companies, Nairobi, Kenya. Mr. Mamomo, you are welcome.
Thank you very much, Madam Adeke.
Okay, another special guest of ours is Mr. Ogwal Samuel, an advocate who holds an LLM in public international law and a PhD in legal practices and several diplomas in conflict management. So, and commandant of the UPDF Legal Training Center and a retired captain after 18 years of an alumni of the Defense Institute of International Legal Studies from Rhode Island, the Institute of International Humanitarian Law, San Remo, Italy, and Peace Support Training Center at Karim Nairobi, among others, of course, to say, and also a specialist trainer, expert in international humanitarian law and research. He's not only that, but he's also of Brussels. He's currently a political analyst in the Parliament of Uganda. And finally, he is a family man married to one wife and blessed with children. Mr. Ogwal, you're welcome.
My very humble pleasure, Joy Adeke, and nice to be here with you. Thank you very much.
Okay, it is a pleasure to have you both on this platform. And at this juncture, I would like in into the nitty-gritties of today's session. So, could you kindly share with the audience the history of this crisis in see? I'll start with you, Mr. Ward. What exactly is happening? What's the brief history?
Adeke, you are cutting. I didn't hear you well.
Mr. Ward?
Oh, yeah, you can hear me there.
Oh, sorry. Can you, okay. I was saying, could you kindly share with the audience the brief history of this crisis in Congo? Like, what exactly has been going on? Where did it originate from? We'd like to hear your views.
Thank you very much, Madam Adeke. It's also my humble pleasure first of all, to appreciate you for the elaborate introduction, very humbling, and also to be here with my young brother Patrick and other colleagues to share on this matter of a very important nature. I will precisely give you a background on my little research, I would say so, on the aspect of the conflict in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and I will segment it into about three introductory and historical perspectives. One, I would give you the background underlining the colonial influence in the Congo. Then we look at after independence, and probably we can conclude with the substantive position of the conflict in Congo. Now, to be precise, Congo was colonized by the Belgians. When King Leopold II came in and took over the control of Congo as a colonial power, Belgian in that respect, the background is that they instilled or showed in what I would call is a tribe or tripartite kind of a seed in the Democratic Republic of Congo. First of all, they put in place a system traditionally which was unchecked. It meant that the colonial power at that point of time placed themselves to a point where the local population at that stage could not check on their powers. Two, they also used the very same stage to demonstrate personal interest for the use of natural resources, which were by then there still very lucrative for personal enrichment. And they also had a lot of suppression on the people who were coming out to show the interest or to push for demand for political freedom. So on the onset, the spirit, the practice, the custom by that colonial power divided Congo, putting the ruling power of the colonial dominancy on top, and the local population were suppressed. And the second point is they were also using, at that point of time, the resources for their own self development. So you find that because of that, Congo started developing what we call a society of divide among the rulers and the citizens of Congo. Now, as time goes by, the uprising of people started, the sentiment for independence were rising up. Patrice Lumumba comes in. Patrice Lumumba was an advocate majorly purely for a unitary kind of a government. He believed so much that people's power should be centered into one control, and therefore he didn't believe in the colonial divide of the provinces. Meanwhile, his other opponent, who was called Sombe believed so much as a capitalist. They wanted to promote aspects of the province. And so, to Tombe, province was supposed to be more independent and autonomy. And therefore, it meant that the control of leadership, power politically, control of natural resources would be predominantly in the hand of the province leaders. That means there was a total divide, according to Tom, from the central and also the province. As these struggles continued, you will realize that Patrice Lumumba became an enemy for his opposition is because he pushed so much for a socialist kind of governance. And his other opponents were pushing definitely for what we call a province or autonomy. Now, this kind of autonomy, again, it grew up in the period between 1960s coming up to about, I would say, about late 80s. Now, persons who joined them, one of them, of course, is the former, the late President Laurent Kabila. When Laurent Kabila now comes into power, remember that he had also come out of a background of the colonial kind of administration. So what he decided to put in place is to make sure that the administration remained predominantly also central. Now, we should put back at the back of our mind that Congo is quite a very, very large country. We do not know the reason as to why they decided to take the headquarters right away into Kinshasa. Because as we speak now, part of eastern Congo and even southern Congo, areas of Gomba, areas of Kivu, which are highly rich with minerals, is very, very, very far from the central government. Now, what am I trying to push here? I'm only trying to say that historically, the governance of Congo, because of that setting, it has been ravaged by aspects of detachment from the central and also the regional leadership of government. That is the reason as to why, even up to now, Congo, part of it are so detached. Some citizens, like from Eastern Congo, I believe they have never even reached Kinshasa. They don't even know what goes on in Kinshasa. So Kinshasa government is just on the apex, but some of these citizens who are in the eastern part of Congo do not have access and do not have any knowledge on what transpires in their country. Now we move away from there in the summary format. As we came towards now the governments during the time of Mobutu Seko Seko, I'm not very good in Lingala, but I was told that the name Seko Seko means the only cock. And therefore, you also realize now it's putting leadership to such kind of a top where the leader, the people who are down here at the bottom are not having any opportunity actually to speak for the government that takes on. Now, during the reign of Mobutu, the tyrant of Mobutu, Congo again remained a very small Kinshasa city. Of course, it is Mobutu's time where he now moved away from the name of Zaire to now what we call the current name of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Remember that in these struggles, the divide among the small groups in Congo kept on growing. The ones who remain in the province, they believe that province is their government. They're not even bothered what happened to other provinces. And therefore, a total divide of the political leadership that existed up to today is one of the biggest trouble of Congo. That meant that the local province leaders had to continue pushing for their people at the address of their provinces, but ignoring the central government. Now, to sum it up, you remember when after Mobutu, then came in now Laurent Kabila, and after Laurent Kabila, who was also assassinated, now comes in Joseph Kabila. In summary, the situation created on by the colonial power and then also after independence of Congo set the kind of system of governance in Congo at the apex, and therefore there was no bottom pool. It was the top pool, which is having a lot of power, and up there and ignoring the provinces. So those provinces continue to live in autonomy up to today. You remember somewhere around the 90s when we had the Rwandan genocide. A few of the, I would not say a few, some of the Hutu refugees who moved away because from Rwanda and entered into the eastern part of Congo. And they lived in areas of Goma, they live in areas of Kivu up to date. They entered there and joined there, and they lived there as the Banyarwandas and Banyamulenges. But there was a move by the parliament, I think, if I could remember very well, around 90, I would say 94, denying them to become citizens of Congo. Now, since then, they have lived in that kind of status up to today. That is why you find that the, 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 the Hutus, the Banyamulenges, and the Banyarwanda, who are in the eastern Congo, have a very strong relationship with their brothers and sisters in Rwanda. And therefore, because of that interest, Rwanda has remained predominantly to protect the boundaries against any other influence. Meanwhile, the remaining part of surrounding part like Uganda has also remained predominantly protecting the boundaries of Uganda from Congo. But by and large, because of the extensive largeness of Congo, because of the wideness of Congo, the central is totally delinked from the provinces. And that is the reason as to why there are growing other small forces in the provinces, especially in those eastern regions where you have the Maimai rebellion, you have the M23 coming in, you have the Banyarwanda and the Banyalenge Hutu who are there, and they have remained predominantly there. They believe that they should also benefit from that. Finally, the total mismanagement of resources in Congo. We know for sure that the fact that Congo has a lot of resources, but because it is not equitably shared, the other parts of the provinces, like the eastern part and the southern part, have remained impoverished. And therefore, when leadership shows up among them, they would also want to take control because they now see that the center of Kinshasa is also investing for wherever they are. The provinces remain now also trying to invest for wherever they are. And now, because of that lack of political control, very many other small rebels have grown up, and therefore the issue of conflict in Congo has reached the apex that it's not only a Congo issue, it's now become regional issues. It is harboring, according to neighbors now, harboring forces which can actually destroy the peace within East African community as well as also the SIDAC community because this Congo, remember, it was part of SIDAC, the South African Development Community, and now it is the youngest country that has joined the East African community. By and large, the community like Uganda, the community like Rwanda, feel very unsafe to live with a neighbor that do not control part of the provinces who are allegedly harboring what we call either terrorist organizations, either rebels who can actually come and attack the neighborhood and go back. That is the reason as to why Rwanda, and then the UPDF of Uganda, the RDF of Rwanda have become actors in these areas of conflict within Congo. And so the what we call the non-state actors in these provinces have taken charge, and that is the reason as to why the conflict has existed up to today. This is precisely my introduction on the conflict nature which is undertaken in the Congo. I, for now, want to stop there, Madam Adeke, and maybe I will add on much more later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Grimes. You have truly given us an elaborate touch to the history actually on what is going on in Congo, how it started, what are the reasons and causes, and yeah, totally, it's been a mess that is affecting various neighboring countries, Uganda, Rwanda, and so forth. Mr. Patrick, what is your view on Congo's historical crisis?
Adek, I've not heard you very well. Pardon, please. You are mute. You are mute, Adeke. Unmute.
I'm sorry about that. I was saying, what is your view on Congo's historical crisis? I mean, what would you say about it? We are being given an elaborate, view of what Mr. Gual thinks it is. You've broken it down. How would you describe it?
Okay. Thank you very much, Madam Adeke, for this opportunity to also give some insight pertaining, this important issue that is affecting East Africa as well as Africa at large. And of course, it's a pleasure to share this platform with my former lecturer for Constitutional Law 2, Mr. Gwal. It's a pleasure, sir, to share this platform with you. Uh, of course, Mr. Gwal has, extensively been able to give us, a proper background of the Congo crisis. What probably I would wish to add is now probably what as the current crisis that has befallen uh, Congo. And of course, as we would appreciate the fact that the DRC and particularly the eastern region, have long been plagued, of course, by armed conflicts, and this has been primarily due to ethnic tension and competition over abundant, natural resources. The M23 was a rebel group, predominantly composed of ethnic Tutsi, that emerged back in 2012 after accusing the Congolese government of failing to honor, the 2009 peace agreement. Although the group was actually subdued, back in 2013, it resurfaced back in 2021, launching offensives that have led, to the current crisis. Of course, this year, January, that is late January, the M23 rebels, of course, seized Goma, and that is the capital, of North Kivu province, and it is a very strategic city in DRC. And of course, this particular offensive, resulted in significant casualties and mass, of course, displacement. By the end of January, Goma hospitals morgues reported over 773 bodies, over 2,000 people were wounded, over a 4-day period. And so this capture of Goma, of course, which of course it has some approximation of around 2 million residents, has of course intensified humanitarian crisis with thousands fleeing the violence. So probably, all these conflict in Congo is based on political and on mineral perspective. And that has been all been the issue whenever we have, crisis in Congo. And so with what my former lecturer, Mr. Gal, had indicated, and with these few add-ons, I think that in an holistic is able to comprehend the genesis of the crisis in Congo and the current one as early as January. Back to you, Madam Adeke.
Thank you very much, Mr. Patrick. Yeah, that's surely the both of you have given our audience a broader perspective and at least a better understanding on what the Congo crisis is. Now, I'll shoot. You earlier mentioned in your brief background about the Congo crisis, about the minerals that's in Congo. Now, there's statements that DRC is home to the world's largest reserves of metals. The world has become more reliant on maybe like cobalt, copper, zinc, and other minerals. Local and external groups have become more incentivized to get involved in this Congolese conflict. What do you have to say about it?
I did hear you so well, Madam Adeka. Could you please, Wakate, could you kindly repeat what I'm saying?
Oh, okay. Basically, earlier on, as you were briefly giving us the background of the conflict in Congo, and of course, people are saying that Congo is the home of all these minerals and metals like cobalt, copper, zinc, and many others. Now, the local and external groups have made an effort to get involved in the Congolese crisis and the conflict. These minerals, what do you have to say about that?
Again, I want to say thank you very much, Madam Adeke, and also thank you very much, Patrick, for that explanation you have made. You brought to be part of it. It is no doubt that Congo has a lot of wealth. It's even no doubt that the percentage of contribution, maybe even to the global aspects in terms of economic prowess, Congo does so well. But I would want to say, given the current status we have, and given the takeover of Goma, remember that all this armed conflict is only basically about exploitation of the natural resources. People are taking advantage of Congo's situation. If the M23 is there, like for example, they've taken over Goma, like my brother was saying. But even before the takeover of Goma, the small non-state actors who are there, because there is no control on those natural resources. I would want to start with the premise to say, when God blesses a country with such a huge wealth of natural resources, it can either be a blessing or a big curse if there's no control about it. Congo, I would say, unfortunately, descended into, I would say, a curse. Many people are all over the world, countries neighboring Congo, are getting inside there for purposes of the situation. You have heard about the allegation being raised against Rwanda, but Rwanda says, no, we are only there to protect our boundary. You remember the history when Uganda entered Congo. There is a court ruling to that effect. Up to now, Uganda hasn't paid Congo whatever they robbed from Congo. So all this, even Burundi, all these neighboring East African countries who get inside Congo, they go under the guise of protection, and the guise of armed conflict or self-defense for their own country, trying to anticipate probably that the rebels or who are being trained in part of uncontrolled Congo can easily affect them. But in the process, exploitation of the natural resources of Congo has become the order of the day. Timbers are being swung left and right. Gold is being mined left and right. Cobalt is being taken left and right. And because nobody controls there, it is to whom it may concern. The Django law takes precedence now in the whole of Congo. And if for as long as Congo continued, especially in the rich province of Eastern region province, with the Django law of to whom it may concern and God for us all, I want to tell you, Madam Adeke and our colleagues who have listened to us, that the resources in Congo is going to be used to exploit people of Congo and will also become a center for more conflict, more armed conflict, and more atrocities being committed. Recently, you've seen what happened in Goma, as my brother was saying. But the humanitarian crisis takes a center stage. Now, because of that, we are seeing people even leave now. Congo actually has been on the verge of exporting refugees to Uganda. Wait a long time, even before the genocide of Rwanda happened, Congo were already having issues. So I would want to say in a nutshell that for as long as the natural resources uh, conflict, both in Congo but also extensively in the neighborhood. I keep on saying this repeatedly. M23, which is now in charge of Goma, and believe this was a group trained to cause trouble or instability inside Uganda. That is why UPDF had to go and deploy there. But such deployment come also at the expense of the natural resources. How sure are we that such occupation is not depleting natural resources of Congo? We're not saying that is the behavior, but you see, in a conflict situation where there is no control, everybody is under humanitarian crisis, then natural resources are depleted at the expense of that country. So the Democratic Republic of Congo will continue having this crisis for as long as the aspects of governance has not been settled internally and also regionally. SEDAC, EAC have a very, very big center stage towards maintaining peace in Congo. So in a nutshell, these resources are there, but if they are not well handled, is going to be exploited and at the same time also cause a lot of humanitarian crisis and continued conflict in the Democratic Republic of Congo. I don't know whether I tried to give an insight on that, Madam Deke. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Gual. You have surely given us an elaborative insight on that. And very true. As long as those minerals are still there, there's always going to be people wanting to get a piece or a bite of something. And it's still going to cause commotion until it's found. But then ask, Mr. Patrick, while the US campaigns once owned vast cobalt mines in the Congo. Most were sold to the Chinese companies during, I think it was Barack Obama's administration and President Donald Trump, both those presidents. Now, these Chinese companies connected to Beijing now, and they control majority of the foreign-owned cobalt, uranium, and copper mines that are in Congo. And these Congolese armies have actually repeatedly deployed to the mining sites in the part of DRC to protect these Chinese assets. Like, what are the implications of these actions,
Thank you,
Mr.
Adeke,
Patrick?
thank you, Adeke, uh, for that question. And as you know, my colleague has highlighted, uh, the rich minerals that are found in Congo, they really attract, of course, the external forces, the big fish, to come and exploit, minerals in Congo. It's important for us to appreciate the fact that, these mineral resources that are found in Congo are of great value, in some of the things that we use in our daily activities. For example, if we were to look, for example, let's say something like, uh, 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 you know, lithium. We know lithium ion batteries used for electric vehicles, and these electric vehicles. And remember, the US is talking about, proceeding green. That's the kind of, vehicles that, they are, championing, talking about protecting the environment. And so these electric vehicles, they contain, comfort. And by virtue that it contains compound, that tries to understand the value in which compound has. And that's why, bearing the fact that it is the Western powers that are championing, going green, using electric, vehicles, then the Republic of Congo, becomes the center stage, bearing the fact that their volume in terms of, cobalt, that are very crucial and important to, manufacturing electric vehicles. And that shows how much interest the Western powers have in these minerals. When you look something, for example, let's say like, tin, gold, they are used to manufacture electronic devices. Where do we get these electronic devices from? We hear this made in China, made I don't know from where. Where are they getting these minerals from? Definitely, of course, it's from Africa. And we know very well that, DRC is enriched of gold and tin. So would you really expect these guys to keep quiet and failure to come and exploit these minerals? Definitely not possible. When you look in the sector of infrastructure, transmission lines, they are made of copper. How many times are we importing, transmission lines, from the West? Yet these are our minerals that are being exploited within our region, that is the Indian Sea. These minerals are exported, to the Western countries. They are refined, and then they are brought back to us in Africa. There's a lot of implications, that it has, not only in Congo, but also in Africa. Remember, these are our own minerals. Are they taking care of our environment? How is the investment sector being looked at? Because they were told these minerals are being exploited, or they're being, manufactured within Africa. We'll be talking about in terms of employment. We shall be talking about the revenue to a government. We'll be talking about, extensive trade and investment, not only in Congo but also in Africa at large. But then we are looking at exploitation of these resources. They are not in any form benefiting our people. And then they are definitely, of course, exported. And when we import them, they are very expensive, making livelihood very hard. So, in terms of trade, in terms of employment, in terms of investment, we are suffering as a nation of Congo and also as Africa. And then to make matters worse, due to those conflict of interest that the Western powers have, and that's why you're finding that we have political instability in Congo, because all these parties are having interest in these minerals. So, in a nutshell, these minerals, in sense, should be a beneficiary to the Republic of Congo and to Africa at large, but in return, it has made us suffer economically, it has made us suffer in terms of political perspective, and also in terms of trade, which is so bad that when we are, from the face of it, we are rich, but at the end of the day, we are poor. Back to you, Adeke.
Thank you very much, Mr. Patrick. Indeed, these resources are supposed to be enjoyed by Congo itself, its citizens, and maybe extend the neighboring countries if they do to be shared by Africa, but because they are ones who are enjoying this. And in exchange, they get some financial stability, and so many things. And actually, Congolese speaking refuge abroad, and with over 21 million people in the country, living 24 services, food, and other types of aid. What should we say this means to the country, and in particular, Congo and Africa in general? Let's start with it.
I think you were cutting my dear network a little bit. I didn't get you where. Could you just repeat it a little bit? Kindly.
So about knowing that I hope this is clearer. Yes, I was saying now this financial instability and so forth that has been caused by the fact that actually the Congo citizens themselves and the countries and Africa at large
Mhm.
actually not enjoying these but rather it's the other countries and the different continents that are enjoying, China and so forth, enjoying these resources. Now, very many things have been affected. We have like over 1 million Congolese who are seeking refuge abroad, and we have like 21 million people in the country.
in Congo who are in need of desperate services, medical services, food, and other essentials. What does this mean for the country in particular, and generally for Africa? What would this mean for them, for
Thank you.
us?
Mm, Thank you very much, Madam Adeke, and also thank you very much, Patrick, my brother. First of all, the issue of refugee has become a concern, and it is stemming out of conflict. What does it mean for Africa? To me, what it means to Africa, or even East Africa, for example, is that for as long as there is ravaging conflict, we are not going to we are going to be having aspects of refugee influx whether we want or not. I remember that the aspects of refugee comes out with also the aspect of humanitarian crisis. Uganda, for example, I think is one of the countries which is listed among the world highest in terms of receiving or holding refugees. But you see, Africa has to settle. For how long shall Africa remain a battlefield? For how long shall Africa remain ravaging with the people running from one country to another as refugees? Living as a refugee is one of the most hostile experience. It is not nice. It is not the life cycle of our citizens are being distracted because of a conflict. We thought of having an African independent governance. Governments of independency are supposed to be independent in terms of holding the center, keeping peace, peaceful democracy, peace in terms of living. It is very, very crucial for every African country. And therefore, if our own independent government cannot sustain peace internally, it is going to cause influx into the neighborhood. Like I said, for as long as part of Democratic Republic of Congo remain in the control of non-state actors, the citizens who are living there will be forced, because of the conditions prevailing, to leave that country, go either to Uganda, come either to Rwanda, or even move over to Nairobi, wherever, or Burundi. So, issues of conflict is a major center for people moving in terms of refugees to go and seek safe haven for livelihood. And remember that all this comes out with destruction in terms of economic progress, in terms of sustaining a country's ability and the citizenry, the pride of being an African living peacefully in your country is taken off by conflict. The sense of belonging to that country, beautifully, the Democratic Republic of Congo, it is now being drawn aside because of conflict. So, what does it mean to Africa? Africa, we need to work towards maintaining peace in our region. If we cannot maintain peace in African region, believe me, that aspects of refugee influx will continue, and then we shall continue even being underdeveloped. And above all, we shall create an avenue for the West to take advantage of us in terms of humanitarian supply or humanitarian intervention, and eventually deplete the natural resources that God has blessed with Africa. Africa, we need to protect our resources jealously by maintaining peace in the continent. Back to you, Adeke.
Thank you very much, Mr. Val. Now, yes, most definitely, there's so many roles that need to be played. People have to come up and, of course, protect these resources and so forth. But then, yet again, we are facing a crisis, and there are parties that can do something about it. Because we have, if we're to use approximately the statistics, a staggering like 23.4 million Congolese are suffering from food insecurity, and making Congo the country that is most affected by food insecurity in the world at the moment. What do you think the African Union is doing about this? They're supposed to play a role, but what do you think they're doing about this?
Thank you, Adeke.
Mr. Gual?
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Let my senior go first.
Oh yes. Thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much for that question, Madam Adeke. African Union as a regional bloc, in they have the treaty establishing that African Union and even other protocols to that effect have got an obligation incumbent upon them not only to look at the peace, but also to look at the aspects of food insecurity within the region. Now, the challenge that African Union is having is that they do not have a center of control in all of the African region. We cannot right now talk about food insecurity when we still have a very serious life insecurity coming up, humanitarian crisis because of conflict. African Union, well, need to move a lot, be proactive. We keep on saying Africa is poor, Africa, we have a lot of resources. But can we use these few resources that we have as an African country or African Union, regional bloc, therefore, to have intervention that are practically going to support a region like Congo? Congo, not because of just the conflict area, the infrastructure within Congo itself does not support that country. Even if there are crises, like recently there are crises, if there is, for example, support of food items to be given to our people in the Water Republic of Congo, the infrastructure of road network is extremely poor. African Union need to put our aid of states at a task. We're not only going to have this celebration of coming together as African Union and leaders within the region without providing solutions to our people. By the way, aspect of food security now is becoming a concern all over Africa, not only DRR Congo. You've seen of recently how the temperatures have risen. With this kind of temperatures we're having, automatically agriculture is going down the road. So when food production goes down the road in the whole of Africa, and yet we are known to be the center for agriculture, automatically the African Union has a lot of interventions supposed to be taken. We have a policy on climate. Climate change is not. I mean, none of these members of African Union, individually in that country, are working towards that. And that's the reason as to why we cannot have we have a hostile environment. So to me, in a nutshell, Madam Adeke, African Union need to be proactive. African Union needs to take steps forward interventions that speaks directly to the livelihood of the people of Africa. We do not need to have association of political aid of state or political actors. For as long as African Union continues to be a political association and a non-intervention association, we shall continue to have aspects of food insecurity, not only in Congo, but also in the whole of Africa in totality. Back to you, Madam Adeke.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gual, for that elaborate explanation. Actually, yes, African Union at the moment is not really playing the part that it should play, or it's not putting the effort that is expected out of it. And it is very concerning, not only to the African countries, but we are wondering what exactly is going on. Now, there are very many like unions and parties that could do something about it. African Union is not really doing a lot. But we had the UN Security Council that authorized a real offensive brigade under the mandate of the UN Organization Stabilization Mission in Congo, that is MONUSCO, to support the Congolese army in its fight against the M23. Mr. Patrick, was this campaign successful? Earlier on, you had given us a brief on the M23. Was this campaign that was organized by the UN Security Council successful? And what effect did it have to Congo and Africa at large?
Thank you, Adekin, for that question. Uh, of course, even from as it stands, even after the formation of the MONUSCO by the UN, if at all we were to conclusively say that there was success, definitely if at all there was any success, we wouldn't have heard what happened just the other month in January. Taking over of Goma, fights in Bukavu. It wouldn't have happened, and that from the word go. Uh, uh, the success was not conclusive. But anyway, of course, the campaign against the M23 rebel group in the Democratic Republic of Congo, of course, has faced definitely significant challenges. And of course, this is despite the efforts of the UN, as you've put it, organization, stabilization mission, in the DRC, and of course helping the Congolese army. The M23 rebels have definitely continued with their offensiveness, and especially the part of the eastern regions of the country. Much as the UN, of course, Security Council has strongly condemned the ongoing offensiveness by the M23 rebels and calling an immediate cessation of hostilities. Of course, the council or the UN Council has also gone ahead and urged the Rwanda Defense Forces to stop supporting the M23 and withdraw from Congolese territory. The situation remains complex with ongoing clashes and humanitarian challenges, of course, in the region. While the campaign has had its some success, the conflict is far from being resolved, and the international community continues definitely to work towards a peace, a resolution. And so, much as yes, the MONUSCO, of course, being championed by the UN, tried to, come and, stabilize the DRC. There's still more work that needs to be done because the conflicts are still there. And it's important for us to, look at a long-lasting solution. And I believe by the end of this session, we're going to be able to give some strong recommendations that needs to be done for us to have a long-lasting peace in Democratic Republic of Congo. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Patrick. Actually, you have preempted my next question. What would be your recommendations for the situation that is actually going on in Congo?
Thank you very much, Madam Adeke, for that question. And sorry, of course, for trying to be what.
No, you read my mind. I was
What
like, are
you
there
say?
any practical solutions? Are there any practical solutions? Because if African Union not doing anything, what UN Security Council has tried is not working, what could we actually recommend for this to be for there to be at least some peace or settlement and avoid all these insecurity and so forth? What do you have to say, Mr. Patrick?
Thank you, thank you. The ongoing crisis in DRC really requires, a multi-pronged approach that integrates political, military, diplomatic, and humanitarian efforts to restore stability. Given the the complex interplay of local, regional, international actors, trying to address the root cause of the conflict is essential, in achieving sustainable peace. That means that we must go back to, the history and understand what has been, the causes of this instability in the country, and so that we are able to start addressing, from that point of view. The primary step toward resolution is initiating first an inclusive political dialogue among the key stakeholders. We, without any doubt, we know, how was M23 formed, what it includes, and what countries have an interest in this movement. The Congolese government, they must, much as I had the other day, the president was not willing to engage with the so-called terrorist group. But from my point of view, I actually term it as an armed group from the national humanitarian law perspective. That the Congolese government, they must be able to engage in a negotiation with the M23 movement, to establish a ceasefire and explore a long-term solution to grievances that fuel the rebellion. Of course, we understand currently there is a regional mediation efforts, championed by the East African community, like the EAC, and also the South African Development Community, the SADC, and of course the AU as our regional body, in which, of course, they are trying to strengthen, in terms of facilitating a meaningful discussion. Of course, these organizations, serve as, neutral arbiters to broker peace agreements while ensuring that, there's both political and, military solutions that are implemented effectively. And of course, we know that, the SADC and ESC were able to nominate the former president of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, the former president, of Nigeria, and also, of course, former Prime Minister of Ethiopia, to steer this negotiation for purposes of, trying to see whether they are able to bring peace. So negotiation is a must. They must be able to sit down with the armed group and seek for a long-lasting solution. In terms of military, strategy, a revaluation of the security apparatus is critical. The armed forces of the Democratic Republic of Congo requires a structural reforms, to enhance the effectiveness in countering rebel advances. That means that training, professionalism, and equipping the military with adequate resources can strengthen their capacity to secure volatile region. Just last week, but it was this week, on Monday, when I was on another forum that was organized by Al Jawara law firm. uh, I was, one of refugees from, Congo, informed that in their country they don't have a military base, that is there to train, their soldiers. And so this tells you that the training, the professionalism that the armed forces of the Republic of Democratic Congo is not good enough to be able to combat such insurgencies like the armed group. So it is important that, there's need for training, professionalism, and equipping of the military with adequate resources. In terms of addressing humanitarian crisis, must be a top priority, bearing the fact that more than 2.8 people have been displaced in the North Kivu alone. And so immediate measures needs to be undertaken to ensure that there's access to essential services, just like water, shelter, and as well, medical care. Humanitarian organizations, like the UN, the National Red Cross, and other organizations, should be granted safe access to conflict zones to deliver aid, as we know that there is their need for, not to combat the humanitarian crisis. Diplomatic engagement with neighboring countries, particularly Rwanda and Burundi, is an essential to curbing, foreign involvement in the conflict. As Mr. Gwal indicated very clear that Rwanda, these neighboring countries, Rwanda, Burundi, even Uganda, they have special interest, in DRC Congo, and therefore there is need to have that diplomatic engagement, with the neighboring countries, so that we are able to have peace. Of course, Rwanda has been accused of course, supporting the M23. Rwanda has deployed troops to counter the group, etc., etc. And so it's important because these regional tensions actually escalate the situation and they normally undermine, the peace effort. So diplomatic resolution is very key, and especially, and I've said this in a different forum, that a direct engagement between President Felix Tshisekedi and Paul Kagame, it is necessary to prevent the escalation of the hostilities. And of course, the role, of course, of the international community extends, beyond, diplomatic uh, mediation. And this is where another element of sanction should be able to come on board. And we saw how much it was important for sanctions to be issued when Somalia had issues just like the one Congo are having. And I think once we are able to have international community coming on board and putting sanctions, against individuals and entities that are fueling the conflict would be very important in terms of, trying to ensure that there is peace, stability in DRC Congo. Back to you, Adeke.
Thank you very much, Mr. Patrick, for those recommendations. I'm sure our audience and, of course, audience targets, those who are not here, will listen to this because it is being live streamed and they will get these recommendations and hopefully they can put them into practice. Well, our session has come to an end, but we need to hear some recommendations from Mr. Ogwal too, being an expert in international humanitarian law. Mr. Ogwal, what would be your advice? What practical steps can be taken?
Thank you very much, Madam Adeke. Patrick has ably actually given very, very good practical solutions, but maybe just to supplement, and I want to start from the point of peace being achieved in this scenario. Congo needs to put in place a very strong institution and also build capacity for peace to be prevail in Congo. We need to get a roundtable discussion. You cannot continue having a small conflict, which has now become a self-autonomy government. What used to be a small army or a small non-state actor now has taken over Goma, and now that they've established themselves there. That means we need to sit down. DRC Congo, the president of Congo, needs to have a peaceful engagement, try to get to the root cause solutions for these issues, which is making uh, uh, the citizens not contented with the current governance. Aspects of governance, it's not about the shoot power of weapons you have, but you can solve peace through negotiations. So negotiations, very, very key. The issues that I would also think that could be a particular solution for Congo is that they need to have an inbuilt system for their own security forces. Congo army seems to be working on their own forex. The ones who are in the eastern Congo, they're on their own. You can remember the other day, a group of them, I think from the police force, defected and joined M23. What was the message? The message was that they are not under command and control of the government. Government of Congo needs to take command and control of their territory. Thirdly, Humanitarian aids all over this region, they need to be given really opportunity and access to go and support our people in Congo who are suffering because of food crisis, the health issues. I mean, their humanitarian crisis has gone to the peak. Congo has suffered not from today only. Congo has been a ground for those very serious diseases like Ebola coming out from Congo, the smallpox coming out from Congo. And this is because something under infrastructure as a government is not being complied to. So I think government infrastructure of Congo it is also very, very crucial. And they should also look towards the aspects of social and psychological integration. As they go for peace, people who are in Congo, if you look at some of the refugees, I, for one time, I had an opportunity to interact with a lady who had come from Congo, and she was being actually rehabilitated by African Center for Violence, torture victims for violence in Uganda here. The community in Congo right now, they need a lot of social and psychological support. What they have gone through, look at how people are cutting brothers and sisters. Look at children seeing their parents being killed. So even if we look towards the negotiations, we look towards the ceasing cessation of hostilities or ceasefire, the community needs a lot of intervention from our own humanitarian organization because otherwise we are going to have a recurrence of the same what Uganda went through in northern Uganda, the LRA, the whole of northern Uganda had to be integrated. Now you can see that all of eastern Congo needs a lot of support in terms of reintegration and in terms of also supporting them. Finally, and this I want to say very, very strongly that conflicts is created by human beings. The solutions are also provided by human beings. The same spirit that we drive towards conflict should be the reverse. The same spirit we drive and yearn towards making peace in our society. A peaceful society is a progressive society. A conflict society is a doomed society. We shall not prevail if Congo, neighbors Uganda, Burundi, and Rwanda are not looking towards supporting Congo in terms of building a long lasting peace for our people. And I want to thank you. I hope this will go down the record that we look towards immediate intervention in terms of negotiations and cessation of our ceasefire and at least settlement of our people in the conflict area of Democratic Republic of Congo. By and large, that would provide at least a starting point for a meaningful and long-lasting solution for peace in Congo. Back to you, Madam Adeke.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gual. Both of you have given elaborate recommendations, and surely, as you stated, these problems or conflicts are caused by humans, and the solutions can very much be brought about and made by these very humans. So we hope that these humans can actually, who have the power to create that change, can actually come up, rise up, and do the needful, because we find that the people who are not actually the creators of all this are the ones suffering the effects from it. Anyway, we have come to the end of our session. Though we have questions from our crowd, we don't really have time, but I will take one question from Mr. Gual and one question from Mr. Patrick, and I'll give them just 20 seconds to answer each of these questions. So, to Mr. Patrick, the question is, why is it difficult for African leaders to work together instead of fighting over resources for personal gains? Just 20 seconds, please.
It's the nature of African leaders of being greedy. They only think how much they're gonna acquire wealth and be seen as superior. And so the greedy of African leaders makes them not work together at all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Patrick. Our viewer, I hope you have Listen to the answer. Greed, selfishness. These people do not want to work together. That is the reason. Okay, to Mr. Ogwao, do you genuinely think the African Union can do anything substantial in fixing the problem in DRC when the likes of President Museveni and President Paul Kagame and other African heads of state are interested in the natural and mineral resources in the DRC? 20 seconds, please.
Thank you very much for that very interesting question. Yes, African Union can do something. Why? The head of states are the ones who choose for the leaders of the African Union. But most importantly, again, the African Union becomes a toothless bulldog because they are equally conflicted. The Association of Head of States that puts in leadership of African Union have a lot of influence on the people or on the leadership of African Union. So for African Union to have influence in solving African crisis, they need to put that foot down, have determination solutions to African problems, given the African way. But if we live in the cosmetic approach of the current structure of African Union and conduct, they will never provide a solution. They will become a stampede and a toothless bulldog for the African continent. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gwal. Our viewer, I think you have got your answer. At this juncture, we have closed the session. We have heard from these brilliant elite minds who are experts in the law, international law, political analysis, and so forth. And this juncture, we say thank you very much. And to give a formal word of thanks, I would like to invite the director of Firdaus Integrated Services, Firdaus Initiative for Academic Excellency, Mr. Abdukarim Aziz, to give the vote of thanks. Mr. Director, you're welcome.
Thank you so much, Adeke, for this educative session. And I want to start the vote of thanks from Professor Sam Ogwal. We've been together for the past how many years at Kampala International University. Prof, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your research, and thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with the world leaders. I'm sure they are paying attention to African scholars who have discussed the topic today. So we appreciate your time, and we genuinely want to say thank you for everything you've said today. To our very own Head of Leadership and Good Governance, Mr. Patrick, thank you so much for coming back again. In addition to the article you've already published, which is now gaining ground, a lot of institutions are interested in, sharing your thoughts with them. Thank you so much for being on the show today to also be another guest for Mr. Deke to share your thoughts and your experience and your research on one of the toughest problems that Africa as a continent has failed to fix. The problem of theirs has been there for a very long time, and they make it look as if God made mistakes by putting those resources at the DRC. People are just going there to take resources at the expense of lives and properties. And I just hope that African leaders are paying serious attention to what our scholars have discussed today and some of the recommendations that I've made. Hopefully, they'll put some of this into practice. Pay attention. These guests are also Africans. They are so much interested in fixing the problem happening at the DRC, which affect the continent generally. And so, with what I've said, I hope and I pray that within the shortest period of time, the problem in the DRC will come to an end. So, on behalf of the Board of Directors, Frida's Initiative for Academic Excellence, once again, I want to say thank you to the guest. That is the irony of life. Mr. Prof. Ogwal, your once upon a time a student, has also become a great scholar, and it is a privilege that you're sharing the same platform today, to discuss issues as it affects our continent. So once again, Mr. Patrick, thank you so much for your time. Adeke, over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abdukarim, Director. At this juncture, we would like to invite our viewers that we do this every last Sunday of every month, and you're welcome to join in. We discuss various topics that affect the world at large, but especially Africa. And to get more updates, you can follow us on our social media platforms on LinkedIn and on YouTube. We're at Fridaus Initiative for Academic Excellency, and also on Facebook, and on Instagram, we're at FIR Initiative. And our official website is www.fridauscenter.org. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Have a lovely week.
Thank you, Adeke, and everybody. God bless you. Thank you very much, Prof, for Karim and everybody. Perfect. Thank you. That was very good insight thought. God bless you, Father.
Thank you, Prof. Asante. Thank you, everybody.
Mhm.